guys, Julian here, and today I am going to be showing you how to make deep minimal house like Chris Stussy, Djoko, and Archie Hamilton. To go along with this video, I just dropped a new sample pack called Deep Minimal House Construction Kits Volume 2. You can pick this up right at the top of the description. And what this is it's 5 construction kits for this style. So what you get is individual loops of these little... You can hear I've made these little ideas in the style here. And then you get the individual loops for everything, as well as the project file and all the samples and MIDI and presets. So you can really dive into these and tear them apart and learn how they work. You know, I feel like with this style, it really helps not just to listen to tracks, but to have like some loops like this where you could just drag all these into your project file and you can see how much stuff has to go into it. Because like, you know, with the percussion and with the different layers and stuff, it can be a lot and it can be easy to overlook things and then kind of like wonder why your track doesn't sound that professional. But with something like this, it allows you to really go through and learn what's going on and see how it all works through the project file and just through audio loops. And on top of that, you know, you just get some really cool loops. Like, you know, you could just take this bass line or this one or this percussion or whatever and turn all of these into really cool tracks. So yeah, the link to that is in the description. I'll play you. Here are some of the other loops. So yeah, like I said, link to this is in the description. If you want to support me, this is a great way to do it. And yeah, let's dive in. So this is one of the loops that you just heard. The first sound that we have here is this pad, which sounds like this. So what's going on here is we have 2 chords. You can see we have a G minor 9 chord. So you can see we've got G, minor 3rd, a 5th, so we just have a G minor, and then I've added a 7th, a minor 7th, and a 9th on top of that. So we go, there's the minor chord, and then we add those voices you can hear. It gives it something a bit deeper, you know, it makes it so that it's not just like a simple minor chord, and it gives it something a bit jazzy and kind of colorful as well. You know, with this style, it's very simple, so adding like cool voices on your chords like this can really bring it to life. And it gives it a deeper feel. And then what I've also done here is you can see in the root, I've taken the root note and the 5th and just doubled those up down an octave just to make it really smooth. And then up here, what we have is just a C minor chord. So I took this and I made this just a regular minor chord because I felt like it makes it kind of cool when you jump from this one. It's like jumping from one very clear vibe to another very clear vibe. And then also that goes up an octave. And then same deal there, so we have the minor chord, and then I've doubled up the root note and the 5th. And yeah, so with this, I was trying to make something that didn't just sound like a standard like droning pad. But I like how it goes up like that at the end, and it feels like it's kind of like sampled or something. Yeah, for the sound on this one, it's made using this choir sample. What it is it's this long choir sample. And then I've just put it into a simpler here, and then I've got the loop on. And then I'm using the fade to make it so that it's a smooth loop, because if you don't have that, you kind of hear that restarting. But then with it, it's just a perfect endless loop. So yeah, then after that, we got this low-pass filter. This has a bit of automation on it, as well as an LFO. What's happening here is I'm just opening it up slowly over the course of each of these chords. Like this, so it's kind of like crescendoing. And you can hear what that does. You know, it makes these chords feel a lot more dynamic and interesting. It's important to do stuff like this. So again, it's not just like a simple droning pad going through, but it has a little bit more to it. And then I also have a bit of an LFO on the filter cutoff, so that's just kind of like giving you like those waves of movement underneath the slow automation on the frequency. And yeah, then we just have a bit of chorus to spread the sound out, as well as a bit of reverb, which makes it a bit bigger and a bit more spacey. And then we have the saturator. This has turned out pretty high. Truth be told, this is just because the output coming out of the simpler is a bit quiet. But you can hear this really fattens the sound up. And yeah, I really like what this adds and the warmth that this adds to this pad. And then the last thing that we have here is just a high-pass filter cutting out the low end with this EQ8. And that is it for the pad. After that, we have the kick, which sounds like this. So pretty simple stuff here. The main thing to keep in mind with this one is this kick is 2 layers. What I've done here is I've got a low end one, which you can see we got the EQ3 on there, and it's soloing just the low end. And then we have this high end one. And yeah, so layering is a very effective way to make kicks in this style because you need both that really fat low end and the really hard hitting high end. And so oftentimes it's hard to find that in one sample, but you can just take this EQ3 here and you just set the frequency low on both of these to the same thing, and then you can just turn off the highs and the mids on the one you want for the low end, turn off the lows on the one you want for the high end and the mids, and there you go, you get the best of both, and I can get the punch of this kick with the fullness of that kick. And yeah, and then we just have a bit of an EQ on that, just boosting the low end and cutting a little bit of low mid-range. And then we have this drum bus, you can see, which is really gluing these together and just making the overall thing hit a bit more. And that is it for the kick. After that, we have the bass line, which sounds like this. So this bass line's pretty simple. You can see it's just going around G and then A sharp. So again, we're in G minor. And yeah, you can see like very simple. The main thing to keep in mind here is you kind of want it to just drone or be focused at least around one note, which would be the root note. So in this case, you can see most of the notes here are G. And then you just want to make it kind of busy with that. Like this should really be bouncing off of the kick. Like you can hear we have the kick just doom, 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 doom. And then this thing is like doing all this syncopated stuff around that. And yeah, and then for the sound with this one, it's made using Operator. It's a pretty simple FM bass. You can see just 3 sine waves here. I've got the second one up an octave, and we've got the envelope set like this, so it's a bit plucky. Then we just have a bit of drum bus on that to fatten it up. And then an EQ8, which is cutting at 100 hertz. It makes room a little bit for the kick, because the kick is hitting mostly around 100 hertz. And then boosting the low end. And yeah, and then we have those in a group. I do this all the time on this channel, but it's really the best way to make your low end come together, especially with this style where, you know, you really need that synergy between the kick and the bass, and the low end really needs to be tight. So you can see we just have a bit of saturation and a bit of EQ. So here's without these. And then with them. So you can hear how it just gives it that extra little like fatness and kind of like glue between the two elements. So you can see just a bit of saturation goes a long way. You know, you don't really need a whole lot. Like in the case of this, we didn't need to throw a drum bus on here or anything. You just need a little bit of saturation to make these hit a little bit more and to really glue them together and make them more cohesive. And then the EQ8 is just cutting out some mud and boosting a bit right there. That really helps with the punch and the kick. And yeah, that is it for the low end. After that, we have the hi-hats, which sound like this. So you can see with this, we just have like these sort of main hi-hats. I have this one, which is like an open hi-hat. And then I've layered it with this one. Because the open hi-hat sounds good, but it doesn't have a lot of like that punch to it. So when you add this in, now we have that. And yeah, and then those are just playing on the upbeats. Then we have this shaker, which is made using Operator. You can see it's just a little bit of white noise going into a bandpass. There's without the bandpass. And then with it, so this is a very effective way of making shakers and hi-hats, because you can really get like any kind of sound you want. But yeah, so just got that set like that. And then we also have this little percussion sound. I counted this in the hi-hats because it's very small. It really sounds like a hi-hat. And yeah, and then that's just playing like some extra little percussion. And then we have those all in a group together with just a little bit of drum bus and a bit of EQ8 to cut out the low end. Here's without those. And then with them. So you can hear the drum bus just pulls everything together a little bit more. You know, really brings it forward in the track, gives it some fullness, and also makes it more cohesive. The volume levels are a lot more even, and everything kind of sounds like it's coming from the same place. And then we have an EQ8 cutting out the low end, just to kind of clean it up and make sure that there's nothing getting in the way of the bass. And then the last thing that we have here is the percussion, which sounds like this. So what this really is, it's just the clap. You know, just like a nice, punchy, powerful clap like this that's going to sit well on top of the kick. And then we have this little percussion sound as well in there, just doing like some extra little sort of syncopated stuff. Which you can hear with this adds, you know, it's like I was saying at the beginning with these construction kits, it's like all these little percussions and stuff are things that you may not think to do, but when you put this up against another track in this style, this is what you really need to give it that fullness and to give it that busy vibe that you need in this style. And yeah, and then on the group of those, pretty much the same thing as the hi-hats. We just have a bit of drum bus to kind of tie them together and make them punch a little bit more. And then an EQ8, which is cutting out the low end and doing a very slight high end boost for the clap. It's mostly just cutting out the low end, making sure that we don't have anything getting in the way of the bass. And yeah, that is it for the percussion. And that is also going to be it for this video, guys. So I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get my new sample pack, Deep Minimal House Construction Kits Volume 2, right at the top of the description. It's only $15, and you get 5 awesome kits, just like this one, where you get the full loops and samples and MIDI and presets and the project file, so you can work with these on your own. Maybe you just need some new inspiration to make new tracks. Maybe you want to really break it down and learn how it is. Anything in between, all of that is in there, and you can learn from it, and it's really great. And yeah, if you guys want to support me, it's a great way to do it as well. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.